Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. أما بعد أحبتي في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أسأل الله كريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah and blessings in this sitting. أحبتي في الله, a question was asked which is very long with a lot of tafsilat, and we're going to just try to give you the malakhis of the answer and some of the content. I came across something like this. For one, let me just, before we even get into it, is as laypersons, you should not be shopping. What I mean is shopping for fatwa, shopping for what the latest fitna is, what the latest fitna between Ahl Sunnah is, what's the latest fitna between even the kalam on Ahl Bid'ah, that you have to keep up with that like news and something like that. That wasn't the way of the Salaf. The Salaf warned against Ahl Bid'ah, they warned against mistakes, and they kept it pushing. And that was not for the lay persons to get involved in those issues. So that really answers your question, but let's get into it. The reality behind the names Al-Hajawirah, Al-Baramikah, Mus'afiqah, and Saa'fiqah. Mus'afiqah, whatever. Upon explaining the reality of these labels and the validity of their attribution, one will certainly find the following. Al-Hajawirah. This term was coined by individuals other than those associated with it, namely by the leader of Yemen's Mus'afiqah, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab al-Wasabi, and his followers. Rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatin wasiya. First and foremost, we know that this is from the camp, may Allah forgive us and them, of supporters of Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri. This is clear. And why they would say this about an imam. So I'm going to give you my ta'liqat, and that's just the way it is. You asked me. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Wahhab al-Wasabi, rahmatullahi alayhi wa rahmatin wasiya, was an alim from Ahl Sunnah. You see, yukhti. He gets things correct, he gets things mistake. But he was known for his imamah. And because they fell out, and he was one of the first to kind of defend Sheikh Abdurrahman Adani, rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatin wasiya, that these polar opposites, these divisions began to grow. So he kind of broke with the ranks because he was trying to bring those together while there was Hizbiyah taking place. And let's be honest, may Allah forgive us and them, but no doubt when we study, I don't say speak from Hawa, I say looking at the issues, and those who are going to attack me, please do. That when we look at the Masail, we see that there was some extremism. Extremism is a sifat of Hizbiyah. From the Hajuri side, some of the things he said, Sheikh Ubaid Jabari, rahmatullahi alayhi, his fatwa are like the farts of an old lady. This is what he said. Okay, it's documented. He also said pee on the heads of the companions, the supporters of Abi Hassan al-Ma'rabi. He said it. I didn't say it. These, I just say, aslan, are not really befitting of an alim. This is one of the problems I had, is his extremism, and his followers began to tahazzub. There are those who make tahazzub. I'm not saying everyone, you listen to Hajuri, you're a Hizbi. No, I don't say that, like some of the other people do. But I say with a more balanced approach, which I think is the haqq, that's why it's balanced, the haqq is balanced, is that there was some extremism, I have CDs, which I don't know where they are, at the time when this fitna began, about Sheikh Hajuri, and this was before I was going to Dar al-Hadith al-Shahr, and that's why I didn't go to Damaj, go back to Damaj. This was after the passing of Sheikh Muqbil, it was around 2010, or 2009, so I decided to go to Dar al-Hadith in Hadramaut, which is the brother, which is Sheikh Abdullah Adani, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, who's now the head of the Markaz in Dar al-Hadith in Aden. So this is going to be a long video. So anyway, ala kulli how we witnessed these things on the ground. They had Hizbi lists coming out of Damaj, like papers, literally, that said the Hizbi list in Arabic. And they just had a whole bunch of people they warned against who they have the same Aqidah, they have the same Minhaj, but there was extremism. So this is how Hizbiyah divides Ahl Sunnah. And some of the people are from Ahl Sunnah and they're divided. And some of the people are from Ahl Tahazzub. And they're divided because they make blind prejudice. We don't make blind prejudice to Sheikh Wasabi, rahmatullahi alayhi, Wasabi. We don't make blind prejudice to Imam Muqbil, rahmatullahi alayhi, or Imam bin Uthaymeen, or Imam Muhammad ibn Wahhab, or Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, or whoever, or Ibn Khuzaymah, or Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Ahmed, Imam Malik, or Imam Shafi'i. We don't make tahazzub to any of them. nor Abu Hassan Ashari. So unfortunately, between the ranks of Ahl Sunnah, and this is how it feeds people like Yasir Qadhi. This feeds people like Yasir Qadhi and people who critique, because he's very articulate. He's well studied. So he's going to go into depth and exploit those divisions and the fact that some of the people have left the Sunnah, meaning the ranks of Ahl Sunnah, and he's going to say, well, there's just different types of Salafiyah. That's batil. And we reject any of the people of Bid'ah who say there's different types of Salafiyah. There's none. There's one type of Salafiyah. It's the Qala Allah, Qala Rasul. It's calling to Allah and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and we judge the people who are callers to that on that scale. Not that we say, oh, there's a new guy who says he's Salafi, and there's a new sheikh that's Salafi, and there's a new this, and they're divided. There's a new type of Salafi. There's an Egyptian type. There's a Yemeni type. There's a Saudi type. There's a France type. There's a New Mexico type. There's even no, we don't take these things seriously. So this is some of what happened, because I'm just going to have to go into, this label was not accepted by Sheikh Hajawirah or his companions, who have disassociated from it in name and reality. Of course they have, because they were being called that. I don't use that, even if I differ with some of their callers and their mashayikh. I don't do that. I don't say they're the Hajawirah. Now in Yemen, these kind of language is kind of used because there was a time, and I was there. Okay, I was in Dar Hadith in Shehr, and literally, as much as they were attacking my Sheikh Abdullah Adani, and I swear by Allah that this is true, I was there. There was a brother from Holland. I don't remember his name. And he said, Sheikh, I'm benefiting here, but I really want to go to Damaj. And Damaj, daily we were getting reports. They were talking about Sheikh Abdurrahman Adani, because he was alive at that time. And they were talking about our Sheikh, his brother, Sheikh Abdullah, who was the head of Dar Hadith in Shehr. And Sheikh Abdullah, what did he say? As much as they attacked him and said the most evil, the Mari'ain, the Mari brothers, the Hizba Mari, all these kind of things. People throw out names and make up names. Be careful of these names, especially as a layperson and as a beginning student of knowledge. Don't waste your time. So they were doing this, and Sheikh Abdullah, I was there. I was there when the brother asked. And he went to the Sheikh's face, and I was there in the masjid in Dar Hadith and Shehr. And I witnessed, and he said, Sheikh, I really want to go to Damaj. And the Sheikh said, if you can't get there, I will pay for it. Even they were having circles, and I know people were in Damaj at the time saying they were having study circles, and he was in there, and he said they would have halaqat al-Quran, and they would begin the halaqat al-Quran with the children. Who's a Hizbi? And then the kids would shout out, Abdurrahman's a Hizbi. Who's like some sort of cheerleading squad. This is sickness that has nothing to do with Salafiyah. That was sickness, and I know first-hand reports. I'm not going to name their names, but this is what was going on. And I saw their books. I bought their books. I have the books on both parties. I look at these issues. I don't, just take it like a cheerleader. So Salafiyah is not being a cheerleader. That's one of the things I want to point out. The second thing, the label Baramikah, because this was someone who was refuting and writing under, not directly, I think it was the writer, they say Arafat al-Muhammadi, who many of the Mashayikh have refuted. Whatever, I don't even care, honestly. Don't waste your time. Especially if you don't know Arabic and you can't even listen to any of these people. Don't waste your time. This has no benefit. When you see people who claim to be on the Sunnah and they're fighting over these things, just put your head down and study. Okay? And this is the advice. This is coming malakhis in summary from Imam Fawzan and so many a'imma, so many people of deen, wa fiqh, wa sunnah, and understanding. They don't tell you, hey, you need to take a side. You need to be a hizb. You need to be an ta'asub. You need to take his opinion. They say, leave all that. Tarakum. This is what Imam Fawzan has said in many questions. You can find it yourself. And those who agreed with his deceptions and writings, okay, all that stuff, that's not even necessary. And the Saa'fiqah and all this, and the term was subsequently endorsed by certain scholars associated with Saa'fiqah, such as Sheikh Rabi, Ubaid, like all that's a waste. It's honestly a waste of time. Benefit from the ulama sunnah, those who are known, those who have the books and the tapes, and those who have put in the work, and may Allah have mercy upon those who died, and may Allah preserve those who are living. The third label, Saa'fiqah, okay, and this is also whoever, Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi, he used this to refer to Abdullah Bukhari, Arafat, Hani bin Break, of the Fadi, Jonah, I don't know who that is, maybe a Johnny, I don't know. And the scholars also of Aden, known as Baramikah scholars. It's just so much garbage and nonsense. Like, literally, can you take this seriously? That's what I'm saying. Be Salafi ala Jad. Be on the Sunnah. And don't Mickey Mouse your deen. So many people are playing ping pong with your hearts and your souls. And that's why there are people who leave Salafiyah because of this. I'm not leaving Salafiyah because I know Salafiyah is the haqq. And I know Salafiyah, what those scholars taught us. Even if some of them made mistakes and kind of fell in and played some of those games, I didn't follow them. I still listened and benefited from their durus and so forth. I didn't need to. What is the benefit? Is it going to bring me closer to Allah? No. It's going to make you further from Allah and cause more harm to your deen. The label Mus'afiqah. So we don't even need to go into this. And this is Usama, and this is Bazmul, and this is Muhammad bin Hadi. So this is the other party. So the people in Dar Hadith Fush and Ma'abira. What a waste of time. What a waste of time, especially if you don't know Arabic and you can't benefit from these people or you can't be harmed by these people. Why? Why are we even talking about that? And the people who are Hizbi Khalis and pure, they're just benefiting. And the Baramikah, whatever, Saa'fiqah, blah, 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 originated with their own array. All this is garbage. And I don't know who Abdullah Ibn Hussein al-Yafi'i is. I don't even know who he is. And he's the one who wrote this. So anyway, ala kulli hal, and you mentioned all this stuff and who it refers to and all this. So, here's your question. How do I, as a lay person, deal with these differences? I seem to be pushed away from Salafiyah when I see this, and I know many other laymen as well. How do I know who to trust and who to stay away from? So, that is a good question. And as I said in the beginning, there's no reason for you to get into that stuff. Honestly. Even the fitna of people like... So, here's the point. When I mention Sheikh Hajuri regarding Sheikh Abu Hassan Ma'rabi. Sheikh Abu Hassan Ma'rabi, or maybe you want to hadith the Sheikh. I mean, he has knowledge. We can't negate the man doesn't have knowledge. I believe he's a mubtadi'ah. I just don't go to the extreme where I have to have a badge that says every time he's mentioned, I curse him or I say bad things about him. No, I don't agree with many things. And I think he departed in Usul Salafiyah. So I think he's a mubtadi'ah. And I leave it like that. I don't have to curse him. I don't have to speak and waste times and say there's a new hizb and this and that and the other. And so, at the same time, some of the criticisms of him, there was extremism. And we got to call it where it is. And that's where I see where Sheikh Hajuri, one of the things that he fell into is his extremist kalam, saying things like piss on their heads. That's not befitting. I never heard that from any of the mashayikh. And I sat with many in Saudi and in Yemen. I didn't see it. And I don't hear it from their tapes. And I definitely didn't hear it from the Jibal, like Imam Al-Albani, Imam bin Baz, Imam bin Uthaymeen, وغيرهم كثير. And Imam Muqbil, he had some very strong statements. I love him. Rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatun wasiyah. Doesn't mean I follow all of his statements or everything he says is correct. No one says this. Or no one should say this. We're not extremist Sufis. We're not the people of blind following and ta'assub, prejudice. No. So, how do I deal with these these differences? Many of the mashayikh have talked about this. And what they say, especially those mountains, like Imam Fawzan is someone who I believe is someone you go back to in a lot of these affairs because he is a mountain and he's respected as such. He says, leave this stuff. He also mentions that this is the lay person, and I'm giving you a pretty good paraphrase, does not, and the beginning of student of knowledge does not have a role in these things and making tabdi' of people. Wala tafsiq, wala takfir. Getting in the issue of takfir or calling people tafsiq, fasiqs and stuff. That's not their rule. That's not their role. I seem to be pushed away, and this is why people get pushed away. And I think some of that comes from being, it's knowledge. Knowledge and maturity you should grow in the dawah. You either grow away from the dawah and become a mubtadi'ah, or you grow in the dawah and you mature and you see. If you see from your sheikh, and a lot of mashayikh that I love, they don't like each other anymore. And as I've said before, when I lived in Medina, we used to sit in the same sitting, in the same istiraha, in the same sittings where there would be lectures and they would bring food. Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari would be there. Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli would be there. Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi would be there. Sheikh, did I say Abdullah Bukhari? Sheikh Suleiman Raheli would be there. Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli would be there. Imam Abdul Masin al-Abad would be there. Sheikh Abdul Razak would be there. Those were the core mashayikh that I would say. Sheikh Saadi Suhaimi would often be there. And the Dawrat we have now, many of those mashayikh you will never, probably in life, ever see. Some of them that died. Sheikh Ubaid, I didn't mention him, rahmatullahi alayhi. They sat together. But then when fitna started, they did. And did you become a hizb? I didn't go ping pong. I looked into issue. I saw where there was mistakes. I saw there were things that I believe were correct. And I went with that which is correct. And I didn't have to even make tabdiyah. I didn't have to join in the cheerleading squad. I didn't have to talk about it. I didn't have to immerse about it. Instead, we just try to learn and teach Kitab wa Sunnah. And not to have blind following to any parties. When you get blind following, I could tell you countless stories of things we witnessed and what happened when Sheikh Faleh al-Harbi and Sheikh Rabi split, and the things that were getting away with when Faleh was popular with them, and how they criticized Sheikh Ibrahim, Sheikh Abdul Razak, and others. But Allah raised those mashayikh. And that shows you, when you have this blind following, these prejudice, what it can do to you. And I'm going to end with a statement of Imam Malik that he said, and this is the core. And Imam Malik's before everyone I mentioned, I think, except for when I mentioned the 4 Imams, and he's one of them. And he's Imam ad-Dar al-Hijrah. He said, La yuraf al-haq bi rijal lakin yuraf al-rijal bil-haq. We don't know the truth by men, but we know the men by the truth. Unfortunately, people get those traits of Hizbiyah, so they make al-wala, they make love and hate based on it. Oh, you listen to this one, you're off the Sunnah. Oh, you go to the lecture of this one, you're off the Sunnah. You go to that masjid, you're off the Sunnah. I just want to pray to Allah. I don't care where I'm praying, as long as they're in the fold of Islam. That's my moqif. And we could talk about details about that and the dawabit and criterion, and I don't want to get into all that. But the point is not wasting your time. And I think that's what becomes a blessing for many who stay on the Sunnah, is not wasting their time. Now, there are some who feed that, and there are some who enjoy that, and they are heads of cheerleading squads, and they do that. But honestly, I think before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have safety and security if you do not waste your time, and you put your head down, as many of the mountains, those ones who achieve, who Allah blessed, put your head down, and you don't have to. There's so many of my mashayikh that they divided, or they speak about a particular sheikh, and I look at their evidence. But that, yeah, we don't even need to get in it. May Allah help us and forgive us and guide us. So as a lay person, you don't get involved in that. And when the people try to push you and pressure you, that's their hizbiyah, and that's their foolishness. Just say, I don't know. And if that's not sufficient for them, let them label you. And just keep learning your deen. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.